Hi, welcome everyone. This is our tutorial for our new 3D tiered tray kits. I thought I would go over our first one with you, and for anything in the future, most likely these processes will apply to the pieces that you are getting. So let's get started. So in your kit will come like this. You will have several different pieces. You will have ones with adhesive on the back, so you don't have to worry about gluing anymore, and so forth. So let's get started on some of these pieces that take a little longer to dry. So in this particular kit, if you are following like I did it for the sample, we need to stain the frame of our sign. This is a piece that we will get to in a bit. So we cut them in, well, this particular one, we cut the middle out of the frame with the design. So that way when we go to paint these little pieces, we can actually use this background piece to help steady those little pieces for painting. So I'll show you how to do that here in a little bit. This is the background of that particular sign, so we're going to set that aside for now. This particular love one, I did stain the back. No, I apologize. I painted the back and I stained the front. Hold on, I need to go check. Yes, I stained the back and I painted the front. So we're going to set that one aside too. Our cutting board we stained, so I'm going to remove these pieces. Now, when you remove these pieces, you'll see that the design is underneath. We do that so that way when you go to place these pieces on after, when you're done painting, you'll know exactly where to put them, because this piece will fit on that piece and then you'll know exactly where the position is. This too has adhesive on the back, so that makes it very easy to glue these tiny pieces. So that's fine there. And as well, for this particular banner kit, we also have scored in the letters, so that way when you go to apply position them, you know exactly where they are to go. So we're just going to take all those away too. All right, so I find it easier to group all of the like types of paint colors or stain colors I'm going to do at once. So I'm going to get rid of this. So we are going to stain the frame, stain our cutting board, and we're going to stain the back of our heart. So if you've never stained anything in our DIY kits, we use a water-based stain. It dries a lot faster than an oil-based stain, and you're able to paint over top of it if we were painting over top. But today we're just layering. So I have my water-based stain, I have my foam brush, just readjust that there, and you're going to need a piece of paper towel. Mine is a blue shop towel. It's lint-free, so it makes it easier for staining because it doesn't leave any little fiber bits behind. All right, so on the heart, I will probably do both sides because that is a piece that is going to be seen from both sides. So I've dipped my foam brush, let's see if we can get that in the camera, into the stain. Now, when I'm staining something particularly this small, I will stain both sides and then I will wipe it back. I like to lay my foam brush on its side and wipe it on rather than just brush it on with the top of the brush. I find it faster, and you're also going to want to apply it in the direction of the grain. When you're applying a water-based stain, you don't want to apply it too dry because it makes it harder to blend. So you want just a light dampness of stain on the surface so that when you go to wipe, you can even that out and blend it like that. So when you're wiping, you'll notice you're going to have some stain on your hands from holding your piece. So just watch that that doesn't transfer to your pieces and leave marks. So holding it on the edge is always good there. So that piece is done and you won't need to do anything more with that. Now on this frame, because we will need to stick it to the back of our sign, there is an adhesive on the back. So this side we will not stain, we will just be staining the front. So just a little bit, just go all the way around. and then wipe. Now, remember with these particular types of pieces, they are a lot more fragile than the solid wood pieces to the tier tray kits we did before. So you need to be very careful when handling them, as they may break a little bit easier. Now with the cutting board, same thing. I'm going to give that a dip, and I am going to wipe all the way across. I'm not worried about covering up those score lines. They'll be noticeable enough when we put our pieces on to just get them in the right position. All right. So also watch those edges. My hands are full of stains, so I'm gonna wipe that off first. And then I'm just gonna come in here and give that a wipe. Okay. Now stain will always lighten as it dries, so if you're thinking this is a bit dark, don't worry. When we sand it, it will lighten, and as it dries, it will lighten as well. So this part will take about, I don't know, 30 minutes to an hour to dry depending on your environment. So we're just gonna set those off to the side and continue on with our painting. So you're gonna notice that doing this particular kit, it does go a little faster than the other types that we've done. So I'm just gonna get rid of this. And I'm gonna take my gloves off now. Okay, so the next part I'm going to work on is our white. So I can paint the background. This particular background, I'm going to want it to be done in 2 coats. So I'm going to get started on that, and then we can do these little pieces afterwards. Now, I'm gonna get a brush for this one. Now, we have been talking about using foam wedges, and you're more than welcome to take your foam wedge and wipe the back of this on. This is a bigger piece, so you can definitely do, you can paint it with a brush. However, you do want to be careful not to paint your edges, because you're going to want that to be nice and clean, because when you line up your frame, you want it to look like it's all one piece. All right. So in mine, I'm doing some white. So we're gonna do some thin coats. I'm starting in the middle, so the most of my paint is there, and then I'm going to take and go both sides. Now with this particular sign, because the frame goes to the edge, I don't necessarily have to paint right to the edge, because my frame will hide all that. So that's another way to save you from painting that outer edge. And there, so that's all I'm going to paint, and after when it's dry, I'll show you what I mean by putting that. Actually, I might be able to do it now. So when I put this over top, I can see that that hides up all the edges that I didn't paint. So just make sure that you're going far enough to cover that. But then that way you don't have to worry about those edges. And we'll come back to that because we're gonna we're gonna sand that. Now same thing with this as well. You can easily, I'll show both ways. You can easily take your brush. You will have to do all the way to the edge. Now you wanna be careful. And paint those very little paint. Your first coat's gonna be a little rough and use a little bit more paint because you are going into raw wood and it likes to soak up the paint a bit more. So just be careful, the paint on your hands and touching those edges. All right, so turn this however you need to get the best angle. Now I got a little bit, so I'm just gonna give it a wipe when it's wet. And that's good. So when this dries, I can always just take a tiny bit of sandpaper and give that a soft sand and clean that up. Now, if I'm doing that with the little foam wedge, I'm going to get a piece of paper towel. So that way I can blot off most of my paint. Now you can always cut down your sponge to fit the size of your project. This one shouldn't be too bad. So once again, I'm going to start in the middle and kind of sponge it and lift as I go to the edge. Now this may take you one more additional coat, but 2 should still be good. So you're kind of doing a light sponging, lifting as you hit that edge. And that is the first coat on that one. All right, so those are those. The next pieces we're going to do that are white is these teeny tiny pieces. And there's my K. All right, so the best thing to do for this, which I need to clean up this area, is I'm on parchment paper right now, so I'm going to need some painter's tape and it will not stick to the parchment paper. So push this back. All right, so where's my painter's tape? Okay, so I have my painter's tape. So what I'm doing is I'm folding this in half and I am sticking it to the table. Because if I try to paint these right now, I am going to have a big mess. I'm going to have paint on the sides and it is very hard to hold and paint something that small. So I'm going to stick it on the table here and I'm going to stick it to the tape. So when I go to paint, it won't be moving all over the place. I'm gonna add another one here just so it's a bit longer. And I'm gonna add my Valentine's here as well. That should keep it. Okay, so same thing. Whatever is your choice of color, you can use your sponge, dab it in the paint, and blot off. Now this sponge is definitely bigger than I need for that type of area. So I'm going to take my scissors and I'm going to snip it. So most likely I would do these after so I could keep my big sponge for the bigger pieces that I'm doing. But just for demonstration's sake, I'm going to just cut it out. So I'm going to cut it in half. So now I have a tinier surface area for these littler pieces. So I'm going to go in here, dab some paint on, and you're definitely going to want this to be almost dry because you don't want it, try and get that better for you guys, to be dripping into the corners. So very, very lightly. I'm not even barely pressing, just lightly hitting that surface. And I'm just kind of holding the tape down with my finger so I don't have it bouncing up and down. Now these letters might take you an extra coat just because I'm not applying like we would on the flatter pieces that are a bit more straight. If you do get a little paint on the side and it kind of ghosts on the side, don't worry, that'll be fine. You just really just want to watch, make sure you don't have big drips. All right, so I'm just gonna leave that. It's very, very light, but as we build up those additional coats, it will start to solid up more. All right, so you would do the same thing for these pieces. You would tape those into place and paint them the same way as these. This one as well, you can do that, as well as the heart. You can do that one as well, and just set it on a bigger piece of tape, maybe on the top or the bottom, and you'll be able to do that one in its color of choice. All right, so for something like this, where all of your designs are in a rectangular frame or in a frame of some sort, I'm going to put a piece of tape on the back because I need to remove the tape on the front. And yes, I could tape them like this, but I need them in this frame because it does make it easier to paint in this than it is on this piece of tape. So I'm gently going to take that off. And I'm going to do the same with that. Now this particular sign has two different colors. I've got red on most of it and pink on the two little hearts. So what I'm going to do, just put my brush in here, is I'm going to do my red first. I'm going to take that sponge that I had some weight on it, so I'm just going to cut it off so I can still have a decent sized surface area for the small pieces that I have. Okay, put the paint there. Let's get some red. Okay, once again, we're going to take our sponge and I'm going to dab off and even up that bottom a bit. And then I'm going to hold this and I'm just going to do this. Now, if you feel like you're going to accidentally paint your hearts pink, your pink hearts red because of what you're doing, you can just mask them off. Whoops. So that way you can go over top and not worry about getting any other color on there. All right. So what's nice about in this painting in this is that you can worry less about the paint going down the sides. However, you still need to be less is best, because if you do happen to get paint around the sides, there is a chance that they will stick themselves into here and not come out. So just make sure after you're done painting each coat that you just see if you can move those letters around in there so they don't get stuck. All right. And I'm just gently going over. Don't want any drips down there. And it's best to do less coats more often than trying to get it all done in one. Red is a color that usually takes more than 2 coats just based on how it's created. So the next coat will definitely solid that more up. So we're just gonna leave that and set that off to the side. So while we're waiting, things dry really fast when you start to do a kit like this because you're not using a whole lot of paint. So this sign, it's already dry, so you're gonna wanna take your sandpaper. This is our 400 grit and you're gonna give it a sand. I'm just gonna do it over here so I don't get dust in my work area. So when I'm sanding, I'm going with the grain and I'll flip it so I can make sure I get a nice feeling on all the edges. And definitely use your hand. If you feel any texture, then continue sanding so it's buttery smooth. And then when you're done, you can give that a wipe. So just to show you, so I didn't paint those edges, but when I put this on top, you can't tell that I have not done that. So that way my edges are still clean and I don't have to worry about anything on the edge. So same thing here, we're gonna sand these little pieces. Now the grain does go from side to side on these. So I will want to go like that. And once we sand it, you'll notice that the paint will go on a lot nicer because you've got a nice prime surface and those wood fibers have started to fill up with paint. So this is the one, I don't know if you can see a difference. This is the one I did with the brush. This is the one I did with the sponge. So it is a little lighter. It just may mean I might need to do an extra coat compared to my brush. So I'm gonna grab a new foam wedge here and I'm gonna just continue on. Okay, so I'm just gonna wipe. Lift as you hit those edges. Just watch that your fingers stay clean, so if you grab those edges, it doesn't leave those bits of paint. So as after the second coat, you can see that it's solided up a lot better on that one. And I'm not sure, based on my light, I might actually leave this one because they look pretty close to the same. No, we'll just do one more anyways. Oops, let's get rid of some of that. And just wipe. Kind of like a dab and wipe all in one. So dab and wipe it. Okay, so we're gonna let those dry, and then I'll show you what to do with the foam brush or foam wedge on the side. Now I don't necessarily have to clean off as much paint because I do have a bigger surface area I'm working with, so I can start in the middle with more paint, and by the time I slide it over to the edge, I really don't have much left to worry about dripping on the edge. Okay, so same here, I'm just gonna start in the middle and push it over. There we go. And then just kind of smooth out those any lines in the same direction of the grain there. All right, so those ones are done. Now these little tiny ones are dry as well. Now normally I say sand between each coat. These are very, very delicate. One swipe with the sandpaper and you're most likely will have them broken. So we are not going to sand them at all until they are in place on their completed board, and we'll gently skim over that. So once again, a little bit of paint, and I'm going to come in here and do my second one, and I can see now that it's starting to solid up a bit. And when I'm doing small spots like this, I tend to pinch my foam wedge and give it a bit of a tip so I can help go into those tiny areas without the rest of the foam going over the edge. All right, and then I can come in here very gently. You don't have to press too much, even though you hardly have any paint on there on something that's tiny. It doesn't take much pressure to push some paint down the sides. Okay. All right, so that's coat number 2. Based on what I'm seeing, I'm definitely going to do one more, but that will be enough. All right, so while that's drying, once again, this is already dry. So on this one, because we've kind of put some paint on there, I'm going to sand it just to help that paint lay better on the next one, and I can tell that it's nice and smooth, so that's great. And I'm going to come back in here, grab a little paint, whoops, blot it to even out that bottom, and then you can come in here. So you can see now, see there's the second one compared to the first one, so it's starting to solid up already. One more dip here. Okay, so that's coat number 2, and the third one will make it just that much nicer, and I can still tell that I can move these in there, so that's good. All right, so what's next? Those are done. What other piece can I show you? All right, so this heart I'm going to show you. We'll show you the pink. I'm not going to do the whole kit right now, but you'll get the idea as I do bits and pieces here. Okay, so pink, we're gonna do the same thing. We're going to get a piece of painter's tape. See if you can see me down here. Oops. Move this up a little bit. Stick that in there. Let's see if I can bring this closer. we go. Okay. Stick that under there. Move some of this back. Okay, so now we're gonna do pink, and I'm gonna need another foam wedge. So this one as well. If I was doing pink last and I was gonna finish all my other colors first, you once again could take your foam piece and you could trim that one off, and you could use that one for your next one. So that way you're saving yourself some wedges, and you can use them till they're pretty small to hold. All right, so let's do pink. Some on there, so get some paint on there. Blot it all off. And then once again, I'm going to kind of define a little bit of a tip, and I'm gently, let's see if we'll go over here, gently go around the edge of my heart. Now this one's a little harder to see just because it's a light color going on a light color, but something like this should really only take you a couple coats. Now if you get busy between coats or something, as long as you put these makeup wedges in a bag, you should be okay. However, if they start to dry out, you can always just snip it off and you'll be able to use it again. So, all right, so that'll be good for the first coat. Okay, these ones are dry, so I'm going to give them a sand. And if you want to distress them, you know, these for me are going to be done, so you can always wear away on the edges. And let's see, this one is dry as well. You can see things don't take a whole lot of time to dry, which is really great. Okay, this one is pink as well, so let's get that one done at the same time. Can you guys see that one there? Shift it there, we go. Okay, so pink. Whoops, that one just wants to move around on me. Okay, that'll be good for the first coat. Now we can, that one's dry. Yeah, that one's dry. So we're gonna go ahead and finish that last coat. Actually, I'm gonna give it another sand. Just very gently, I'm not putting a whole lot of pressure, I'm just smoothing out those fibers. I don't wanna wear away any of the color. All right, third and final coat. Now, another reason why this frame is around these words is also as it helps for lining up your words when we go to assemble it. So that is another reason as well. Okay, so that is coat number 3. It's good to go. All right, so I'm going to peel off my tape, and if I'm careful, I might even just cheat here, and that way I can do smaller bits as I'm going to come in here and just paint those. So if you're good with a brush, you can definitely paint them with a brush. Once again, you just want thin coats so it doesn't drip down the sides. Paint, you want to paint in the direction of the grain. You can come at it from all directions if you need to, but you want to always take your brush and go in the direction of the grain when you are done. Oops, got a little bit of paint on there. So let me go back and paint. There we go. Easily fixed. Okay, so this is gonna dry really quickly. This one is dry. Okay, so this is still a very delicate piece. However, I'm going to show you on some of these like this, even though it's a little bigger, how you can delicately sand. These ones I would not attempt. So hold your hand gently in place and just gently do little areas at a time, firmly holding down any other area just so that it doesn't move, doesn't get caught, and not being too aggressive in your sanding. Okay, so that is feeling really good. And I'm gonna do my last coat of pink on there. Okay, dab all that paint off. Not sure where you guys can see anymore there, okay. And come in here. Still too much, okay. And gently apply that. The light isn't the best right in this area just because of the sun. But based on what I'm seeing, 2 should be enough. All right, that one is dry. I'm gonna take this one off. And I'm just gonna turn it upside down gently and rub it up against the sandpaper because it's easier than doing it the other way. All right, and that one's nice and smooth. I'm gonna, however, get another piece of tape. So it's not very good. Okay, stick that one back. A bit more paint. Dab it off on your paper towel, which I'm not sure you guys can see in the camera. And then blot off one here. All right, so that one is done. So red is done. And so when I did these were either red or white, so those, or no, red or pink. I'm just gonna not do those right now because I can still show you the same process with some of these pieces. Okay, so my frame is dry. So I can take my sandpaper and go around and give that a sand. If I want to distress it a bit more, I most likely will do that once I have attached it to the back of the sign. All right, my heart, it's dry as well. So I'm gonna sand that one. Do it off camera here so I keep the dust off my projects. All right, so that is nice and smooth and you'll wanna wipe away that dust. And as well, my cutting board is dry as well, so give that a sand. I'm going to show you. So you can see this is the part I've sanded and this part up here is not been sanded. So you can see how the sanding will lighten what we've just done, and then you can also distress as well. And now that is all sanded, so you can see that it's all kind of even. Now depending, it might look a little spotted here, it's how the wood accepted your stain. So it's not something you may have done wrong. The wood can do whatever it wants when it is staining, so you just sometimes have to just take pleasure in the natural characteristics of the wood. So okay, let's give this one a wipe as well. Okay, so this one's nice and smooth. All right, so what we can do while we're waiting is we can start attaching some of our pieces. So this one, since it is done, you're going to want to peel off the back. You can see this has a sticky adhesive on the back, so you don't want to pull this off anytime sooner than when you're going to apply it. So that is coming off. And now this is a very sticky adhesive, so you definitely want to make sure that you are exactly where you want it to be, and then you will push it down and let it go. So with something like this, you definitely, let me get my face in here, guys, need to make sure it's nice and even. These are cut exactly the same size. So I haven't pushed it down yet, so it is made contact, but I haven't really pushed it. So if I need to slide it at all, I can still do it a little bit. There we go. Yeah, those are all nice and the same. And now I'm going to give it a push. Okay, so this one is dry, so I'm going to give it a sand. There we go. Now I like to wear my edges away. It's just what I like, so I'm just gently distressing. And there we go. That one is done. My heart is dry, so once again, I'm just going to gently hold it as I run that sandpaper lightly over that. Okay, so that one is done. Let's check these pink hearts. Okay, I'm gonna do one more coat, but I'm gonna do, where's my tape? I'm just gonna go like this. So once that red part is dry, or that whatever color you decide to paint it, you can just easily frame around it. That way you don't have to worry about painting where you're not supposed to. Let's get in here, just a little bit of paint. And that second coat will be more than enough. Okay, so that one will just dry really quickly. All right, so while we're waiting on that one, we can start to put this one together. Here. Okay, so you can see the heart outline. This will fit exactly there. Now when you're peeling these ones off of your tape, be very, very careful because they could break. That one will go there. That one there, and that one there. So what you'll do, see how perfectly that lines up? So once again, take the adhesive off the back. There you go. And we're going to line that up. Then give it a little push. Same thing with your letters. Pull off that adhesive. Press it into place. Now once again too, when removing the adhesive, very delicately on these small ones, as you may break it if you pull too hard. Give it a press. There we go. And one more here. Very carefully. Now, if you feel a bit more comfortable doing this on the table flat, that is totally fine. Actually, I might with this one, just so I'm not pulling on it. However, just kind of watch that sticky. I mean, if you do happen to break it, you will be fine to still put it together. You shouldn't notice that seam at all, but you just want to be very careful. Okay, now that that is on there and I can see that there's some rough texture, this is where I'm going to gently run across, because now it's not going to move, and I can smooth out that. And there we go, I can feel it's nice and smooth. Same thing, very careful, especially on those ends. It's nice and smooth, so you can see there how that is all done and all lined up perfectly. And then you can add your twine there. All right, same thing here. Let's get rid of this one. Okay, that one is sanded and this one's done. So for this one, you're going to line up the tip at the bottom. Actually, no, how did I do this one? I lined it up a little bit of a frame. They will match right on that point there. So I'm going to pull this one off. Okay. Shape is, and then center out that point at the bottom. Give it a little press, and that one is done. So that's 2 already. Now, had I painted all these, we would be easily pulling these ones off, but one of them would be one color, one could be another, and you can totally do whatever you want there, but you will take that backing off, stick those in place, and then you'll alternate. And when you thread these ones through, you're going to come in with the string on the right side as you're facing it, take it across the back, come up through the left hole, and then continue doing that so it's long enough. And I'll show you how we attach it to our tiered tray. Now for this one, take all this tape off. Now first of all, we're going to do a quick sand. Make sure all my pieces are moving. Yeah, okay, so you need to pull off your tape, and some of your pieces most likely will come. That is okay. All right, so you need your pieces to come out. Do not remove the adhesive on a piece like this, otherwise this piece will get stuck in there. This is just a guide for you to put these pieces in the exact spot. Now sometimes I find it's hard to get out after, so I'm going to show you a little trick. Sometimes I will grab some dimes, they're nice and thin, and I will put them in some areas where I know I don't need my detail to go, but what it does is it raises this, see if we can, raises it just a little bit so it's easier for me to get out after. Once you get this all in here, it's not sometimes easy for this to come out. That way I can just pull on it after. All right, so let's just begin. So take off your adhesive and place into the slot. I kind of give it a little bit of a push. This one in here, give it a push. Now be careful of this one, it's a little bit more delicate, especially on that tip. Okay, there we go. This just makes it so much easier to line everything up perfectly. All right. Oops. Give that a push. Make sure you can figure out which heart goes where. They're slightly different. Okay, that one fits there. There we go. As well, and this too, is a little fragile, so if you need to, place it on the table and gently peel that off. Oops. So if you hold it with your fingers, just watch when you do settle your hands on that adhesive, that when you lift your fingers off, it doesn't peel any of it off. Okay. There we go. All right, a little push. Now I can take this out very easily. Everything is lined up. I'm going to give another good press. And that one is done, just like that. All right, and I'm going to quickly go grab the banner so you can see how that one looks. All right, and here's the banner one that's complete. So you can see that I've stuck those letters on there, and I've taken my twine and I've run it across the back. So that way you can do that. Now, when I attach it to my tiered tray, I run it across the front of the lower one, but you can definitely do it on the top one. And I just take a stapler and I just kind of tie a knot on the end and staple in the place. The staples don't really ruin the integrity of the tray. They're easy to come out, and you can change it up for the next decor piece that you do for another season. All right, thanks for joining me. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to shoot me a message, and I'll definitely be here to help you out. All right, good luck.